Good evening, everyone. The 553rd meeting of the Planning Board of the Village of Depew will come to order. We have a roll call, please.
Member Agnew?
Here.
Member Fedorovich?
Here.
Member Morawski?
Here.
Member Soha?
Here.
And Chairman Maciejewski.
Here. Could everybody please rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Notification of emergency exits.
The emergency exits are located to my left and to the rear of the room. In the event of an alarm or emergency, please move in an orderly fashion to the exits and evacuate the building.
Thank you. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It's for the property located at 5443 Transit Road. Could we have the legal notice, please?
Please take notice that the Village of Depew Planning Board will hold a hearing on Thursday, May 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. A pre-board meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. in the conference room and the council chambers of the Municipal Building, 85 Manitow Street, Depew, New York, to consider the application of submission by Ann Wojciechowski for the property located at 5443 Transit Road, Depew, New York, 14043. The following matters to be reviewed. They are requesting the following. Requesting a special use permit to operate a used car dealership in a C2 zone as per Chapter 260, Subset 26027, under the guidelines of Chapter 260-260-33K. Any and all persons interested in such application will be heard at this time.
Okay, who is here representing the project? If you could come forward. For the record, state your name, please, and your relationship to the project.
So I'm Anthony James, architect, and I've worked with the owners to prepare the application here.
Okay, could you please give this board an overview of what you are proposing, please?
Yeah, so it's as you know, existing property with an existing parking lot, an existing building, and existing curb cuts. We're proposing no change to any of those. The primary request is to allow vehicle sales on this property. Oh, should have turned that off, sorry.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to let the board know about the property or the project?
Well, the drawings show what's there now and all the paving that is currently on the property, which is not proposed to be changed at all. I have shown the existing paving striped to allow 8 cars. The curb cut on Transit Road, which is existing, would be where any vehicles would come in and out of that side of the property. And then, of course, there's the existing curb cut on Terrace Boulevard. I understand there may be some concern about, you know, some of this blacktop is, you know, coming right up to the sidewalk. And I mean, we're happy to discuss possibly reorienting some of these spaces. You know, I looked at having the spaces in the front at 90 degrees to the existing, well, as you can see on the aerial photo and noted on the site plan, there is like a concrete driveway that's shown, which leads up to a garage that's in the building. So to maximize the number of cars, which would not be coming in and out that often, you know, we'd shown them perpendicular to the street. But there could be 2 spaces on either side of that existing access that would then come in and out directly from the access drive. In that case, we could have an additional spot on the side, so it would be a total of 6 spaces instead of 8 spaces, which I believe my clients would be okay with doing that if, that was the main concern with the plan as shown presently.
Anything else?
Well, I'm open to answer any
Okay,
questions.
we're going to vary from our usual order of business here and go to code enforcement. Obviously, there are a lot of ordinance issues that are not being met.
So when it comes to putting in a vehicle sales, you have to meet 260-33 under our commercial use standards. And the first standard is that you would require a minimum of 1 acre in size, which is 43,560 square feet, and you only have 6,000. So that's a pretty monumental barrier right there.
Yes, and the number of cars to be sold is obviously commensurate with the existing size of the parcel.
And then under display areas, the setback to any road ridge right-of-way is at least 15 feet, and it's supposed to be landscaped with grass or trees. You don't have any setback there. Let's see. Well, the sales facility adjacent to the residential zoning district, which is directly behind the building, requires a 25-foot landscape buffer. Behind the building, you got 0.33 of a foot.
Yes, which obviously...
So we're looking at, those are some major issues to overcome there. And on top of that, the existing paved area for the customer parking, not the handicap, but the customer parking, the New York State's Route 78 is the New York State highway. And New York State highway says you cannot back a vehicle onto a highway. And you have no turnaround that I could see, I'm looking at here. So your customers would be forced to back out onto one of the busiest roads that we have in this village.
Yes, well, that's why I mentioned this alternate plan. I wanted to show as many cars as possible for their case, but we can change that as I described.
Okay, so that's the issues from a code standpoint. Okay.
So you realize that you're not meeting all the ordinances as required.
Yes, so, and like I mentioned, so their hope was to have a maximum of 6 cars at a time for sale. But what we've just talked about, they might have to limit it to 4. We could take care of no backing out with the change that I described, and then I suppose we would have to go to zoning for variances on the other things, because for a used car lot selling 4 cars to require an acre and all those setbacks, I mean, that obviously would be an undue burden, and I think, people would like to see this building in use, and so something with that small number of cars, it's not going to generate a lot of traffic. I mean, we would have to go to zoning board to request variances from those, mainly those 2 requirements, the acre and the setbacks.
Yes, that's multiple variances.
Yes.
You're looking for 2 different variances on the setbacks and the acreage size.
But in the first place, we need to have approval to actually sell cars on this lot.
Right. The distance between the cars seems awful tight. For somebody to be walking around, trying to open doors, look inside vehicles.
they're standard parking space size, so.
How do you propose to get the cars in and out of these front spaces here? There's only one curb
Well-
cut there.
Well, I think that, we've established that we're not going to do it the way it's shown on the drawing, that we'll just come in and have parking in front of the building 90 degrees to the access drive. So that would take care of the issue that you're just questioning.
Some other questions. You said, obviously the lot will be striped, that
Yeah.
is on the drawings. We already discussed the setback about from the sidewalk.
Yeah. Which
Green
is-
space. How much green space?
Well, there's considerable green space existing because we're not proposing to do anything to the existing space. So that existing green space is somewhere between 40 and 50% of the lot.
What about lighting? You going to be proposing any lighting for the lot?
Well, that's something we would discuss with code enforcement, what's allowed, we haven't actually discussed that.
Yeah, it's important to see that stuff on the site plan.
Yes.
We'd have to assume by what you submitted that there isn't any lighting. And that's not what you intend, I'm sure.
Yeah, we would have to discuss that, and
Same thing with the signage? Any type of signage?
I assume signage on the building, no pole signs or any of that, just the sign on the building. There was a sign on the building previously, so,
What about repairs?
About what?
No repairs.
No
Vehicle
repairs
repair.
on this property.
So, per New York State DMV law, if you're a established used car lot, you have to have a repair shop somewhere.
Well, there would be one somewhere.
We outsource the repairs, and per New York State, you do not have to have a repair shop on site to service your vehicle, to service the vehicle, so you can outsource.
Okay, just for the record, could you state your name, please?
And Wojciechowski.
Okay, thank you.
Also, in your submittal, we'll require a survey certified by a professional surveyor.
Yeah, I copied the certified survey to put it on here, but we can provide that.
I noticed dumpsters. Are you going to have a dumpster on site?
No, it's just going to be a typical trash tote. They're not going to be generating much waste at all.
Occasional pizza will wear out.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, legal, Sam is not here. Donnie, anything else under code enforcement?
No, I voiced my opinions here.
Okay. Engineering? Eric?
Just by glancing at the plans here, and I know you mentioned that, you're going to relocate those parking stalls possibly, reducing the number there. I'm obviously existing there in the front of the building. If you turn cars the other way there, across there, you may fit one comfortably there. Remember, there is a setback requirement for buffering for landscape, which would probably fit just one vehicle there. If you, on the other side of the existing concrete apron there, if you were to, put parking stalls that way, you might get one or two there. One other code requirement is a fire access lane between those driveways for fire access vehicles. If you park a car that close, you won't be able to get through there. If some fire access truck had to come through Transit Road, that would be blocked up. So there's that problem there also to consider.
Can you explain the fire access requirement, please, on such a limited site?
If you look under the commercial use code standards, 260-33K, you'd be following those codes with that special use permit. And under that code, section 1, it would be
Section 8.
Section 8, yep. A minimum of one fire access lane must be established within a vehicle display lot to allow for emergency access to the display lot. Such fire access will be in addition to any required fire access for principal or accessory buildings. So that, again, that would have to be a variance possibly. And correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but that might require fire departments to look at that also to decide if that's a plausible thing to do there.
Yeah.
I understand that it's close, the building's close to Transit Road, and the fire truck could stop probably on Transit Road, but traffic's all there too, so, that's another dicey area to consider. That'd be a code enforcement issue.
Anything else, Chair?
No, that's it, Don, explain the rest of with the code and things like that.
Any public concerns or comments? Yes, sir. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Muhammad Obama. I'm just there. The question is,
I just need you to come up, sir.
come up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you done? You done? All right. The thing is, he's not gonna put no 20 cars out there or 9 cars. It's gonna be like 4, maybe 5 cars. And if you put 5 cars over there, I'm sure you got more than room to maneuver or to open doors or. I see a big business right now just opened up, the car wash. How are they gonna come out and come in? That's my question.
They were,
If they could do that over there, I'm sure they could do that over here.
just to answer that question, they were limited by state DOT as far as what they could do with that property, but we're not here to discuss that property.
Now, what I'm saying is, do you have to be a big business to open a business?
No, they met all the zoning ordinances, other than a couple of with the signage, and
Now, we're willing to do that.
But the
He's willing to
the
do that.
building isn't in the right place,
I understand, sir. but
okay?
What I'm
And
saying is
there-
limited. It's
there's
4 or
only
5
so
cars.
much we can do as far as bending the zoning rules to get that to work for your project. It's not that we don't want you that you only have 4 cars and things like that. These things, this site was just not made for a used car lot.
Okay, what is it made for?
Barber
I mean, she bought,
It was
that's it,
originally
a
a
barber shop?
resident.
it was built as a barber shop.
What it's been
Okay.
forever.
Okay, so barber shop, people still gotta come in and get out, right? Leave?
Within the zoning, there are certain requirements
I
for
understand.
what is proposed for the property.
Right.
As a village, we're required to look at every one of those situations. And as a petitioner, you will then be required, if you were to get an approval from us, to get variances on every one of those things that you need. A variance exists when something wants to be put on a piece of property and maybe a little tweaking needs to get done. You have variance after variance after variance after variance, which leads more to the petition or the project proposal is just not proper for the site. We'd love something to be done with the piece of property.
That's what we're trying to
We'd love
do.
it to be cleaned up nice.
That's what we're
But
trying-
there's rules for a reason. Like-
I understand.
Like the engineer mentioned, well, there's only gonna be 3 or 4, but those rules were put there for a reason. And yes, variances exist when you have maybe a smaller number of vehicles you want to put in there. But there's multiple variances. And when there's multiple variances, I guess the best way it was put to me was it's trying to fit a square in a round hole. One variance, okay, maybe 2, a foot here or a couple feet there is one thing, but you have major variances you're going to need. And we have to, we can't, we're not considering that. We're looking at the big picture. And the big picture is that we have concerns with safety and with following the rules of this village. We don't want to come across as being, we're not pro small business, because we absolutely are. But we also have rules to live by. And the other thing we need to keep in mind is that if we go and hypothetically make a whole bunch of rule changes to put you in there, then guess what the next guy wants? He comes back to us and says, well, you did it for this gentleman. Now you got to do it for me.
Okay.
And therefore, that one-time variance or that one-time situation turns into a ball rolling downhill. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we are in a legal position. We can't do anything at that point.
Understood.
So it's not that we don't want you there. Like you said, if it was big business, it would be different. No, it wouldn't be different. It's just not a proper place for this.
Okay.
Project
so
to go.
The only proper thing is to do a barber shop, is that what you guys said?
No, you asked what was there or what it was built to be,
I
and
know
that's
it
what
was a
it
barber
was.
shop,
No, I actually sent off all the different requirements that you could put there. I emailed it to
To end?
to end, yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's numerous different businesses that could go in there. If you remember, I sent it to you via email.
And as I mentioned, you know a skill and you're a building person. You might want to open a construction company because you're familiar with that skill. We're familiar with car business. I wouldn't know how to open a pizzeria. You don't buy buildings to open up business for somebody else.
But you researched them before to make sure that your project will fit on that site.
Yes.
And it doesn't.
And since you brought the,
Which obviously I was a little confused considering there was a dealership right across the street on Transit Road.
It's got nothing to do with it. The simple fact of the matter is the physical properties that are sitting on that site don't fit the code for what you want to do.
just to back up a little bit, since you guys brought that up about the car wash, the sale of that property was contingent on getting the approval from the Village of Depew for everything they needed to before that sale was okay. So they actually came, researched with this board, with code enforcement, with state DOT on what they could do before that sale was finalized on that property.
Okay, but one of my things is your concern is cars entering Transit Road. A car wash will have a large amount of cars entering transit and exiting transit.
That's an example. Our concern is the piece of property is not fit for the proposal. That's our concern.
And the cars would be pulling through. In this case, you'd be backing out.
Backing out.
According to what you have now. You could ask to table it and resubmit, or you can go through and ask for, opinion today.
Okay, I got a question. My name is Malik Albana.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Malik Albana.
Can you spell that for me, please?
MalikElbana. And I have a question. So you guys' major problem, you said there was a lighting problem?
Well, there's no lighting shown.
Yeah, I understand
on
that.
the- on
I understand
the
that.
proposal.
With lighting, that can be done. I can put ample lighting on the building, which would display all the cars.
But that is stuff that needs to be included.
Okay, I understand that. So we have a problem with lighting, you said, correct? We have a problem with it backing up, the cars backing onto Transit Road,
Yes.
which we can show that being changed, correct?
Yep.
And then you said we have multiple variances
Yes.
that we would have to,
You've got a
Get
minimum of
past?
2 setbacks plus the acreage size of the
okay,
property.
so I have a question. Is there any dealership, probably besides Basil, in Depew, that has all these things that you guys are asking for now, currently?
Maybe at the time that they were built, the codes change over time. And
Right,
issues
what
that
time
have been, so the best way I could describe it is if you have a situation where you allowed somebody to do something and it caused a lot of problems, you learn from those mistakes and you adjust your codes so that we don't have to deal with these issues again in the future. So if things were allowed in the past and the codes have changed, it's because of issues that arose in the past. And this is why they set the precedent for what happens in the future. There was a moratorium for many, many years for car dealerships and motor services to be put in the village because of situations like that. But that brings us forward to today, which these are the codes that the village has adopted over time, and this is the criteria you're supposed to meet, so you understand
Yeah, so I
how
have
it's
a
gotten to
question.
this.
Does anyone know when the minimum was an acre of land to open a dealership in Depew?
No, it doesn't say a minimum for a dealership. If there's a minimum acreage for a C2 with a motor vehicle aspect to it.
Okay, so when was that?
When was the last time we changed the code? It's gotta be,
I don't know when that particular code was put in place.
Okay, so don't we think that it would be a little unreasonable, an acre of land? How many acre lots are on Transit Road or even on Broadway? It's a little unreasonable for what you want. You want customers to come into your place. You want to be on Transit Road, right? You want to be on Broadway as a business. So if you could get on one of those coveted locations, you'd want the most amount of people viewing your cars. Correct?
You also
So-
want customers to be able to get in and out of your lot.
Exactly. I understand that.
Safely.
I understand that.
Safely.
100%. You don't want no problems. I never would want a problem. But here's the thing. An acre of land is a lot. So I understand that. And then you said, I believe, 10, 15 feet of setback?
Your building
Green space buffer.
and the house behind it.
No,
Okay.
for the house behind it's 25 feet. From the front property lines, the actual,
Yes.
Okay. So my question would be, again, which dealership would have setback, because their cars would have to be setback? Is that what you guys are saying? The cars would have to be set back from Transit Road?
Your
green
building
space from the actual
and the
right-of-way,
residential.
From the street, right?
not from the street, so it's your property line. The right-of-way is your property line. So in this case, this isn't a great survey, but if you look at it here, see this dotted line here? This is your property line. This is the actual
The street,
street.
correct.
So from this point here is supposed to be 15 feet of green space.
And that's when you're allowed to display your cars, is after the 15 feet?
Yes.
Okay, is there any dealerships, I don't even think Basil has that. That has that? So-
Basil-
Basil
not a-
isn't building
not
a
a village of Depew.
dealership on 6,000 square feet.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is it's unreasonable
14
to
acres.
expect any dealer,
I
because
think
there's
you
no
should-
dealers
wait a
here that
minute.
have that.
Before you say that, I think you should go and do the measurements.
Yeah, and under,
There's a couple of deals on transit, their car literally on the side.
On the sidewalk, that's what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to do that, I don't want any of those problems, I don't want to, you have people blocked off from trying to walk in the sidewalk, I don't want that. I want to keep the area clean. I'm from Depew, I went to Depew schools. So I would love to be able to open a business here. But,
But you don't want to follow the rules.
no, I do want to follow the rules. But what I'm saying is that some of the rules definitely seem unreasonable. And how
you know,
can
you're-
someone do that?
Let me give you this example. If rules and your ordinances and everything stayed the same, you'd see Tim Hortons being built all over western New York on the size of piece of property you have. But you'll notice when a Tim Hortons gets built down, it's on a massive piece of property. And the reason why is because all the cars that back up. So the point is, when Tim Hortons rolled around, nobody knew anything. There's one in Lancaster, Walden and Central, that's a huge problem. Since then, every other Tim Hortons that's been built in town has to have a huge piece of property to do it on because everything was changed based on the result of that happening. So that's why changes are made for safety, for your customers to be able to get safely in and out of your piece of property. Much less when you're selling vehicles, you want to invite people in.
Correct.
People don't pull into places that are hard to get into.
So I got a question.
They drive by.
I got a question. So when it comes down to having people in and out of this property, and just in general, how are you even going to allow anything to go through there? Let's say I have 3-4 customers, right? At once. They back up or whatever. It's like I can't have customers at all based on what you guys are saying.
What you're proposing is if you have the cars on your lot and 4 customers come at the same time, you've got a problem.
I'm not
That's
going to have
essentially
a
what this
million
comes down
cars.
to.
It's just a couple
And that's
cars.
what we're trying to avoid, is having your property jammed up. Somebody can't pull in. What if there's an emergency? An emergency people need to get in there.
So we would have, like he said, we would.
There's a reason
be
for all
willing
this.
to-
We're not against you doing business here.
I understand that. What I'm saying is this. So with that property, there's reasonably enough space to put 4 cars on there and have enough safety. We could open doors and it'd be fine. It's not like the doors are going to hit each other. And we could have the 2 parking spots that we have on the side and be able to put 4, at least. So that's why I just don't understand how all these variances came against car dealerships that we need a minimum of an acre, we need a 15 feet setback of green space, and all these other variances, but not like one dealership in this area has all that.
Every business, every type of business will have stuff that governs how it's going to be put in. So we're just talking about a dealership situation. And the reason why you're confronted with all these situations, these variances that are needed, is because you've got a very small piece of property and you want to do something on there that the village and other towns and villages have decided that you need more room to do it on.
Motor vehicle service.
Before you even thought about doing this proposal, did you look into the village ordinances to see if you
Yes.
could do it?
Yes.
So you're aware that you're not meeting the ordinance?
So here's the thing, I'm kind of confused because you cited 1 acre of land for C2, but I'm looking at your motor vehicle service district and the regulations. The minimum lot width is half an acre, not an acre, according to your code. Minimum lot size,
minimum lot width is 150 feet. Minimum front yard, 30 feet. This is from the Depew code for the motor vehicle service district.
Okay, so,
That's a lot different from, it's half.
Well, okay, what's half an acre? Half an acre is, what, 20,000 square feet?
yeah, 20,000.
You're still a little short.
Okay. So, but it's not as far as a stretch as what you're saying from.
Between
half-
6,000 and 20?
Half an acre to an acre is 26,000, correct?
Yeah.
That's a big
Well,
difference
20
from what I was just told.
It doesn't, it's still a lot more than the 6,000 allowed.
Is it an acre? I guess,
According to commercial use standards for special use 260-33K, number 1, new and used motor vehicle sales with or without accessory service facilities must be situated on a parcel of land which is a minimum of 1 continuous acre in size. That's what it says.
Okay, so my last question would be is, we would obviously would want to show you guys the planning of the 4 parking spots and stuff like that, but the thing is, we want to go forward with trying to open a dealership, but it seems like you guys just don't want a dealership,
I just told you that. We want what's going to be safe and proper for that
which I
parcel.
understand, but what I'm trying to say is, if, by what you guys are saying, that you guys had to do variances, right, for that car wash, correct? You said you had to do signage and what
Didn't we?
else?
Signage.
Do you know that we did?
He just said that.
Signage, that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
okay.
just said that, is what I'm saying.
And how many?
I don't know, he said there was a couple, he said there was
That
signage
was our
and
chair,
something.
that was our chairman who said.
Oh, well, one of you guys said that, but regardless of that. So what would be the difference between him getting some variances and us getting some variances?
So if they look at the substantiality of the variance, all right,
So-
just so you understand this a little bit better. So what they consider a substantial variance compared to just a minor variance. So in their case, they wanted to go with, I don't think they went above the amount of signage, but they wanted signage on 2 different sides of the building. So they got a variance granted for that. The next variance was they needed a 15 or 25-foot setback to the side. They could only get 10, so they got a 10-foot variance. It's not really substantial. 6,000 compared to 4,350, that's what we consider a substantial variance. Just so you understand what the differences are, okay?
Okay,
And
But-
the acre is just one of the issues.
yeah, which I understand, is, what I'm saying is, if we can comply the best way possible, what would be our steps to comply? So this way we could open a dealership here.
So again, going back to my question, because you never really answered it 100%.
Sorry.
How much did you look into this to realize that you were not meeting the ordinances?
So we looked at what we were allowed to do, and then it said for special use, obviously, it says you can open a dealership with a special use at C2. And when it came to, you said acreage and stuff like that, we know we're not anywhere close to an acre of land. We know that. But we also know at the same time, no other dealerships in this area besides Basil is an acre of land. So it doesn't make sense why it would be a minimum of an acre or half an acre. That's why I just don't understand, where did this acre come up with? Why is there the green space variance or whatever it was called? I'm sorry, but anyways, I don't understand where these come from if no other dealership like abides by these. Like, you would think everyone would have to abide by it once we put in a variance, correct? Or you're saying there's no other dealerships that came along?
Anybody who comes after
Okay, so
change
my question
has
is-
got to live with those changes that maybe the people before didn't have to live with.
Okay, so my question is, so when did that change come in? And has there been no dealerships that's opened in Depew since then? Because that'd be an issue,
There
don't you
have
think?
been dealerships that came before this board over the last 8 years that I've been on this board, and yes, they have been forced by this board to follow those ordinances.
But I don't see any dealership on Transit Road in Depew or Broadway that has 15
Within the last
feet.
8 years that I've been on this board.
So that's my question is, you said that there has been people that have been approved
There's been people that have been approved within the last 8 years that
on Transit Road or
have had
Broadway?
to abide by the ordinances. You're just bringing up the acreage. Did you look into the setbacks?
Yes, I understand that there was supposed to be a
So
15
you were
feet
aware of
setback.
that, and you still felt you could go forward with this.
And a special use
Yes.
permit is not guaranteed
Because,
either, so
like I
there was
said,
that.
The
There's a
problem
bunch of
is
things.
you hired a professional, and he should have known all of those zoning ordinances to put together this site plan. And there was nothing on the site plan to say, well, you know, this doesn't meet this doesn't meet this.
Excuse me. I do say that motor vehicle sales are limited to the MS district, but that district doesn't show on the zoning map. Therefore, relief.
Because it's part of the C2 district.
It says relief is requested to allow this small used car lot. So the issue to me is the size of the business. So the size of the business is commensurate with the size of the lot. So if you're thinking used car lot, they're gonna have plenty of cars, they're gonna have a repair facility. He's only trying to, we brought the number down to 4. He's only trying to sell 4 cars on this lot. So they came to me and said, can we do this? I said, well, let's look at the zoning code. The zoning code doesn't allow it, but, and talked with Don, and there's a process for trying to ask for relief. So we are asking for relief from these requirements because of the size of the business. The size of the business, as I've said, is commensurate with the size of this lot. And yes, we have to get some zoning variances, but there's no point in applying for zoning variances unless you grant us, the ability to have this very small business selling 4 cars on this lot. So that's, and I think if we explain to the zoning board, the requirement is for 1 acre for used car sales. We're only selling 4 cars, so please give us relief from that 1 acre requirement.
It's multiple
We have a lot.
relief, several relief. You're going to need several moments of relief, not just the acre.
Yes, I
Yes, I
understand.
mean, just keep bringing up the acres.
Just not,
There's
it's
a lot
just
of
not
other
that.
issues.
It's a,
What is-
there's several issues.
What are the several issues?
The-
You said it was the acre of land, it was the 15
the
feet?
15-foot front yard setback,
Back.
and then there's a.
Well, it's not,
Rear.
it's from the right of way, so you need it on the side, which is Terrace Boulevard, you would need it along
on the
Transit.
side
Transit.
As well?
Yeah.
And in the
it's-
back.
It's the way it
Rear
reads.
setback.
The rear setback too.
Yeah,
So you're good on everywhere except the south side. Or, I'm sorry, the only area you're good on is the south side of the building. All the other 3 sides need variances. That big piece of green space, you said that's 40 or 50% of the lot, that's the side you're good on. The other sides you're not.
So that's 3 variances,
That's,
correct? So how many total variances would we need is my question?
3.
3,
3
3 as
total?
of right now.
plus we'd have to get
And then we'd
consideration
have to
from the
also.
fire
get-
department about the
Yeah,
fire
the
lane.
fire department
Fire
about the
access
fire.
lane.
Okay.
So what I suggest, if you don't mind, is you table it for this. Redraw what it is you want to put on there, show your lighting, show the other things that the board has asked for, and then resubmit it next month. We have more time to talk about it. Get the fire chief out there so he can take a look at the driveway.
But even cutting it down to 4, you're still going to require the variances.
Yeah, the variances,
Yeah, which I understand.
which is a whole nother board
It's-
from this, just so you understand. It's not, this board doesn't decide on the variances. We have a whole separate zoning board for
Okay.
that.
And understand, if you brought this in next month,
Yeah.
and we looked at this and said, well, you made some nice changes, maybe we're okay with this now. That in no way, shape, or form guarantees
Which
that
I
you're gonna
understand.
get the relief from the fire chief or the zoning, or
Which I
the variances. So,
But I appreciate you guys explaining it to me, so this way I understand better of the zoning laws. Thank you, guys.
no problem. And as your questions, when things were changed, you can
Yeah.
find that information out, you can contact the village, and they can probably look back and let you know when things were changed, if you
Appreciate
wanted to
it.
find that out.
Thanks, Steve.
Public on there.
Please don't think we're against your business, we're not.
Do you want to request?
We're not against
You
your
have to
business.
request a table,
We just,
yeah.
or you could force the vote now. That's
Right.
Okay, so it-
Request tabling it.
As, yes, could you come forward and put that request in? That has to come from you.
So we would request tabling this. We will revise the plan. I'll speak with the fire chief, see what he says about this. And we'll come back with a revised plan, which we understand will have a number of zoning variances required. So the relief we're asking from your board is to allow the use here, so.
Now, let's get a nice clean, let's get lighting on it, let's get it the way it's supposed to look, or the way it's intended to look as its finished project. We'll take a look at it again, and we can go from there.
Okay.
I'd like to make a
Thank you.
motion that we table this submission.
On a motion by member Soha, second,
I'll second it.
seconded by member Borowski to table the submission. We have a roll call vote, please.
Member Agner?
No.
Member Fedorovich?
Yes.
Member Morowski?
Yes.
Member Soha?
Yes.
And Chairman Maciejewski.
Yes. Motion is carried.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, a motion would be in order to adjourn.
I'll do that one, too.
Motion by member Soha,
I'll
seconded
second
by
it.
member Fedorovich. The meeting is adjourned at 7:42 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.